process with greater focus on indigenization. Being the architect of major policies, some of his contributions inter alia include strategic partnership model, Make 2 and Make 3 procedures, as well as the positive indigenizations list. Pardon me for fumbling, he's my father, so you can understand the pressure it is.
He has also furthered tri-service integration in capability development, besides introducing systematic approach to defense planning. He is a graduate of Defense Service Staff College, Wellington, and National Defense College, New Delhi. He is also a recipient of the Vishisht Seva Medal and Ati Vishisht Seva Medal for his disguised service.
It is my proud privilege to invite Rear Admiral Kapil Mohandir, AVSM BSM, to enlighten the audience to give an insight into the Atmanirbhar initiatives taken by the government.
Thank you very much for the generous introduction. Dr. B.R. Sahai, Eminent Director of the Indian Institute of Management, Jammu. Very good afternoon to all of you. Traditionally, in the government, we are used to interacting with the officials and industry leaders. But today, it is definitely a refreshing change to engage with young minds. You are the future entrepreneurs who will carve a glorious future for our nation. There are a lot of hopes pinned on you, and this is the most opportune time to come forward and make India self-reliant. Atmanirbhar Bharat, or the self-reliant India, is a very vast subject which transcends every facet of our life. So instead of focusing only on the defense, I have chosen to walk you through its broad contours. My presentation will be covered under the broad headings as shown on the screen. To begin with, let's briefly glance at the historical perspective. Very often, we get to hear that the reason we don't have a robust manufacturing sector is that we miss the industrial revolution. Yes, that is true. But you'll be surprised to know that India has set up an aeronautical company and a shipyard in 1940 itself, which actively supported the war effort during the Second World War. In fact, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited had made an indigenous trainer aircraft way back in 1970s, but the program could not be sustained. It would also be a surprise for you to know that it was built in Duncan's Dock, Mumbai in 1817 by the Wadiyas. Post-independence, which are also called as the temples of modern India. If we take a rain check, we find that for various reasons, we were unable to sustain the momentum. The manufacturing sector constitutes only 15% of the GDP. And more importantly, the cutting-edge technologies continue to elude us, leading to greater reliance on imports. Why is manufacturing important? There are a number of factors, but I'll just try and bring your focus to a few of these. Manufacturing sector has the greatest multiplier effect. It builds an ecosystem. Let's take an example of the Maruti. Now, Maruti industry, for every one individual who is employed in the Maruti industry, there are 6 to 7 individuals who work in the ancillary industries. That is, they build an ecosystem which supports the industry. The manufacturing sector triggers research and development in the country, and of course, innovation. It boosts exports and reduces the trade deficit. It will be suffice to say that the manufacturing sector generates more economic activity than any other sector. Let us look at the recent government initiatives to boost Make in India. In September 2014, the Honorable Prime Minister had launched the Make in India initiative. The aim was to transform India into a global design manufacturing hub. The focus was on building infrastructure, opening key sectors like the railways, defense, etc. for higher FDI, relaxation of regulatory policies to encourage investments, development of 6 industrial corridors, and a very important factor was the Public Procurement Order Make in India 2017. Now, this is a very unique order, which for the first time gave preference to Indian vendors. Under this order, an Indian vendor, even if his quoted price is 20% higher than a foreign vendor, the contract will be given to an Indian vendor. We have never had policies of this nature. Government also gave a push in ease of doing business, which saw a ranking going up from 142 in 2014 to 63 in 2020. What is interesting to note is government has scrapped over 26,000 compliances, which was seen as unwarranted and which was seen as an impediment to the growth of Indian industry. Government has also launched a number of schemes like the Skill India, Startup India, Stand Up India, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, and many, many more. While all this has brought in a positive change in the manufacturing sector, it has still failed to unleash the quantum of investments that were expected from the private sector. So what has triggered the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan? In March 20, the world witnessed its biggest disruption in the form of COVID-19 pandemic. Shutting down of industries has led to job losses, making it an unprecedented human tragedy. Global trade, which was the basis of globalization, was completely disrupted. Shortage of raw materials and finished goods led to high commodity prices and inflationary pressures. Even advanced economies like USA are reporting 3 decades. Revival has not been easy, as the backlog has led to port congestions, shortage of containers, and higher logistics costs. As a matter of fact, the Baltic Dry Index, which is a reflection of mercantile trade, saw its sharpest increase in the last 2 years. As a result, globally, nations have realized that dependence on only one country was not in interest of the global community. Another interesting factor which has come to the fore is that the countries with low manufacturing base have been the hardest hit. For example, Sri Lanka, whose economy is largely dependent on tourism, agricultural produce, and being a trade hub, is seeing its economy reeling under dire pressures of increasing unemployment and food inflation. COVID has been a lesson for the world. And that's how on 12th May 20, the Honorable Prime Minister gave the clarion call for the Atmanirbhar Bharat, wherein he urged the nation to become self-reliant based on 5 pillars: economy, infrastructure, system, demography, and demand. Point to note is that the government is now looking at steps that bring quantum jump rather than just incremental changes in making India self-reliant in all aspects with focus towards local manufacturing. Soon thereafter, the finance minister announced a special economic package of rupees 20 lakh crores, which is approximately 10% of our GDP. The underlying objective of the package in the short term is to initiate steps for immediate revival of economy, reduce import dependencies and prevent disruptions in supply chain, switch to domestic products, that is vocal for local. In the long term, it aims to revive India's domestic capacity in manufacturing, increase its presence in global value chains, and insulate India from future economic crises. What are our strengths in making India self-reliant? a very large consumer market which can generate huge demand and absorb large supplies. Third largest startup ecosystem. You're all aware that in 2021, we have had 44 unicorns. In fact, we just heard an homegrown eminent proprietor of one of the unicorns who has transformed the hotel industry in a way which was unimaginable a few years back. We have a youthful demography and an entrepreneurial spirit and self-driven individuals. The innovative streaks, the famous proverbial jugaad mindset, even in the rural regions. And of course, we have an established service sector to support our manufacturing sector. To harness and support these trends, the government has taken a number of bold initiatives, few of which are shown on the slide. Of these, the product-linked incentives and the focus on renewable energy are going to be the real game changers. Let me now shift the lens on to self-reliance in defense. Whilst national defense and territorial integrity is non-negotiable, it is a sad truth that India is the second largest defense importer in the world, as per the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, also known as SIPRI. A couple of years back, we were the largest importer. This does not bode well for a nation which aspires to be a regional power. There are many reasons for this state of affair, ranging from exclusive reliance on public sector for defense R&D as well as manufacturing, complex technologies and long gestation period in development of defense technologies, stringent license regime, limited orders, and many others. However, all this is changing. Being cognizant of the fact that self-reliance is imperative for our strategic autonomy, the government has carved a vision to create a robust defense industrial ecosystem and achieve self-reliance in defense sector whilst ensuring that our armed forces remain well-equipped and combat ready to meet all challenges. The government has set two targets to enhance indigenous procurement to 1.75 lakh crore and to enhance defense exports to $5 billion by 2025. To support this vision, the ministry has taken a host of policy initiatives, including revision of the defense acquisition procedure, where the highest priority is now accorded to indigenously designed, developed, and manufactured equipment. Efforts have been made to simplify procedures to encourage private industry participation. A strategic partnership model has been introduced for indigenous manufacturing of fighter aircraft, submarines, helicopters, and armored vehicles. 100% defense sector has been open for private sector since May 2021. Industrial licensing processes have been simplified with longer validity, and FDI limit in defense has been enhanced from 49% to 74% under the automatic route and 100% after government clearance. This would encourage global majors to collaborate with Indian industry for transfer of technology as well as manufacture in India. The capital budget for defense has been progressively enhanced to 1,52,000 crores, over $20 billion for the current year. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the second highest share of the central government expenditure. A separate budgetary allocation has been introduced for procurement from domestic industry. In the forthcoming financial year, 68% of the budget will be spent on procurements through indigenous industry. Even in the research and development, there is enhanced focus on indigenous R&D and creating design leadership. A number of innovative schemes have been launched, including Innovations for Defense Excellence, also called the ITEX scheme, and the Technology Development Fund involving startups and MSMEs. Over 498 crores have been allocated for these schemes, with about 300 startups and 20 incubators in the financial year 21-22. Innovation cells and design bureaus have been set up within the armed forces. This has been a unique and a successful experiment, as these cells in less than 2 years have filed close to 50 patents for cutting-edge technologies. 2 positive indigenization lists have been promulgated. The aim of these lists is to ensure and commit that the services will buy high-end weapons from indigenous vendors. As of now, we have notified 209 items, 101 items in the first list and 108 items in the second list. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a landmark policy decision because these items include complex technologies like the combat aircrafts, helicopters, frontline warships, complicated and complex sensors like radars, sonars, and so on. Of these, equipment worth over 54,000 crore has already been contracted with domestic manufacturers. In the next 5 to 7 years, services are likely to procure indigenous equipment worth 5 lakh crore, that is approximately $67 billion. 2 defense industrial corridors have been set up, one each in UP and Tamil Nadu, with an envisaged investment of 10,000 crore each. As of the last week, in UP, 62 memorandum of understandings have been signed with the industry, and industry has pledged an investment of rupees 8,638 crore. In Tamil Nadu, 40 MOUs have been signed and a pledge of 11,153 crores has been committed by the industry. So let's see what are the spin-offs of all these initiatives. There's a boost to Indian industry and the 9,000 MSMEs which are engaged with the defense sector. Over 65% of the orders in the last year have gone to Indian industry. There's been considerable savings of foreign exchange, and of course, there are increased employment opportunities. There's a greater participation of private sector in R&D as under the policy of development cum production partners. There's a sharp increase in exports from rupees 1,521 crores in 2016 to rupees 9,115 crores in 2019. It's almost a jump of over 6 times. Given the large investments, defense sector is likely to be the cornerstone of India's march to become 5 trillion economy by 2024. We need to remember that Atmanirbhar Bharat is not just to boost production to compete with global majors, enable delivery in shortened time so as to reach masses, continuous refinement of processes to support this process, and of course, to enhance strategic autonomy. So where do you all fit in? Opening of defense sector and other sectors offers huge opportunities in development, production, management, marketing, etc. You need to focus, identify and leverage technologies like artificial intelligence, nanotechnologies, 3D printing, quantum computing, etc. Think about innovative business models. This is one field where you will find you can actually break through and change the way the manufacturing sector is working now. Explore startup initiatives, work out models to cut down logistics costs. The Government of India has already worked on a national logistics policy, and they are going to build multimodal parks all over the country. You are aware of the freight corridors and the expressways. So this is another area where an innovative thought can change the way we work. You can also look at the maintenance, repair, overall hubs. India today has a very large civil aviation. We have a large number of civil aircraft from Boeing, Airbus, the Bombardier, the Embraer, and so on. But today, we do not have a single facility to overhaul these aircraft. These aircraft are required to go to other countries, including Sri Lanka, for their overhaul. Great opportunity. Has been included in the list of top 25 exporting nations for defense. As Honorable Prime Minister has said, the need of the hour is to be proactive and not reactive. You need to go explore the multiple opportunities waiting for you. Identify the sectors where there is a requirement and where you have an inclination. Government is ready to handhold in a big way. Make the best use of it and take a leap of faith. Remember, you are the future and the nation pins its hopes on you to make India an advanced and inclusive society with third largest economy in the world. I have finished. You're free to fire away your questions.
Thank you, sir. The platform is now open for question answer.
Yes, Anirudh, you can go ahead.
Yes, good evening, sir. Thank you very much for your great session. It was really an inspiration hearing your kind words. And we've been hearing from corporates all day long, but your words are really very much relevant when we are talking about leadership and especially Atmanirbharta and self-reliance. So, sir, my question on your topic was that you spoke a lot about industrial corridors and the manner in which the government is creating policy framework and intervention in order to ensure that in order to facilitate the privatization of the defense sector. Moreover, there is also a growing dialogue on deglobalization, and of course, our country is focusing on self-reliance. Moreover, even in the past two budgets, we had production-linked incentives, I believe even for defense sector. And like you rightly mentioned, the defense corridor, industrial corridor is a way for the government to disinvest in PSUs and invest more for them. So, sir, my question is, where do you feel the future of the global competitiveness is for our country? Because traditionally, we aren't a country that has invested on local weapons and defense equipment manufacturers. So, sir, do you feel, how far off are we from realizing the dream that we are trying to pursue? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Anirudh. Now, let me take your question in a different way. You know, globally today, in certain sectors, we are as good as the world leaders. In certain areas, we do lack these technologies. But what is encouraging is to see the startups stepping in and coming up with innovative technologies, innovative solutions to give us the lead or give us the edge. I'll just give you an example. The government just last fortnight has put a complete ban on drones. All drones of any kind would be only manufactured, designed, and developed in India. Why? Because today our country in some manner is a leader of sorts in drones. And you will find that this step of the government will give that confidence to the people who are engaged in this industry. Also bring in incentives, maybe from venture capitalists, even from the government, to support this kind of a structure. Your question that where do we see us in times to come? I am very confident with the measures which we are taking. 5 to 10 year of time period, you will find that we are among the world leaders in defense technology. And I'm not just saying because, you know, these policies have been enunciated by the ministry, but after seeing the domestic defense sector, the startup ecosystem, it is really, really very encouraging. So in my opinion, in next 5 to 10 years, you will find India a major exporter of defense equipment.
Thank you, sir. That's really reassuring and incredibly credible coming from you. Thank you very much, sir.
Uh, we can take another question. Krutika Wag, I think you've raised your hand. You may unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. So my question is that in the coming future, which is that one sector which India needs improvement in, like the development factor, preference-wise?
Oh, there are many. Kritika, thank you. What we are now looking at is the high-end technologies. See, in the world in defense, every country doesn't have to make each and every component of a system. You look at a fighter aircraft, it's not that each country makes all components of the fighter aircraft. Even in the advanced nations like the USA, some of the components are from the European nations and some from Israel, because it makes business sense. But the critical areas are always maintained with that country. And there are certain shortfalls where we are lacking and we are trying to catch up. One is, of course, the aero engines, where we find that as of now, we don't have advanced aero engine. We do have, a 60 kilonewton aero engine, but what we are looking at is a 110 kilonewton aero engine. So fields like this are where we'll have to invest more. The government is well aware of this, and government has already drawn its technology roadmap, and it's working towards, or where we need a certain nudge to catch up with the rest of the players.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We end the question answer session here. Okay, I think we have one last question we can take from the audience. Anirudh, could you take the mic?
So I had a question for you. Since India does a lot of defense export, especially the BrahMos missile that it recently made, and it exported to Philippines. But sir, the issue with I would say, dual partnership agreement that we have with Russia, it also impacts against the CASTA sanctions. And exports are held hostage to based upon some third foreign entity. And how do they react, and will they allow us or not allow us to sell? So, sir, can you please enlighten us on it and how we can get past it?
A very good question. I didn't get your name.
Sir, my name is Nikhil Beniwal, sir.
Nikhil, a very good question. One of the reasons for working on the self-reliant India is absolutely how we can enhance our exports. And we are well aware of the challenges. Wherever you work with other countries, you need to have an approval from them. And you need to have an end user certificate from the buyer. And this is a problem area. Now, CATSA is a different issue, and I don't think we should be discussing it here as of now. But of course, if you have any query, you can send it to me and I can give you a brief on CATSA. But exports, definitely. So what are we working on? We are working to build and acquire IPRs. We realize that unless the intellectual property rights are held with us, we would be always dependent on another nation. And our focus today is to build IPR. And that is where we are finding, I just told you that the indigenous innovation and indigenization cells of the services have filed 50 patents for cutting edge technologies. Now that is the focus areas. Government is also going to encourage industry that we need to see IPRs and not only licensed production. Our nation was earlier engaged in licensed production of aircrafts or tanks, but today we are building on our own IPR. Once we have our own IPR, the problem which you have raised would be solved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to thank you firstly for accepting to be a guest speaker despite your hectic schedule and also giving us an insight about the ambitious drive of Atmanirbharta in defense. You have truly motivated all of us by your pearls of wisdom. And last but not the least, friends, I stand here as a proud daughter of my illustrious father, Rear Admiral Kapil Mohan Dheer, AVSM, VSM. The nation is indebted to you for your service, sir. Proud of you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your session. Now I would like to request Mr. Pratik, sir, to please give the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Pratik.
It was a great session. We all enjoyed it. I'm sure our students are feeling a bit motivated after listening to so many useful insights about Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, and especially with regards to the defense sector. So I'm sure this Abhiyan will be a game changer for India and its economy as well. On behalf of IIM Jammu, I would like to thank you for sparing your valuable time to be a part of this leadership summit. And we look forward to have you frequently with us in our future events. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much and all the very best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
that perspective, what was not right with the state is a question we must answer first, then look at why it was required to be done. That means the origin should be known as to what the destination should be. Let's start from some shocking facts that you should understand, because this is normally not in public domain or not appreciable enough in public domain. I mentor Shopian district in Kashmir Valley. Every district has a senior officer as a mentor, and so normally you guide the deputy commissioner as to what does that part. It's a rich, affluent, apple-growing area. Most houses are double-storied and fairly well off. Although it's a very difficult area because it's some of the hotbeds of terrorism because it's in the border area. But the fact remains it's an affluent area. Take a guess how many homes, and they are double-storied homes, not single-storied also, would have electricity meters in their home? Anybody? What percentage of homes would have a meter in the home, which is a normal fact for us in life? You got the answer. So I'm glad somebody even knew that part, but I've been seeing it quite often, so I'm glad somebody has caught that part. Imagine a state where an affluent population doesn't pay for electricity, or pays a very minuscule amount, few hundred rupees here and there, and everything else is free. And we lose roughly 4,000 crores on electricity because of subsidy factor, because what we sell, what we can provide and we pick up is just less than half the amount. So you can imagine the cross subsidy goes on to the industry or people like normal city living out here. This is an acceptable mode of way. So when I was in Shopia, I asked the people out there as to if I really wanted a meter, would I get a meter? No, it's not available. So even if you wish to be a law-abiding citizen, that option is not available to you. So what sort of governance is this? Next factors, and these are just shock factors I'm giving you, so one of the collected factors. I have a body called State Industry Development Corporation under me. The MD reports to me, so I'm aware of the details of it. The sanctioned posts are 300. The employees on roll are 1,200. In government, this is unimaginable, largely because every postcode has to exist. Otherwise, you can't pay him a salary. Yet, we have 4 times the weightage than what we could have carried, and yet we pay a salary. And mind you, these are not the managerial talents you're looking at. This is a typical class 4 employee. So this is as good as a burden for me. What army says, teeth to tail ratio, as to how many fighters you have compared to how many backup people you require. So in this case, there's no teeth. It's just a burden. Now you can't get rid of them. It's a politically very sensitive issue. But this is the way the workplace has worked. I have worked in a central system. I've been a PS2 minister for long enough. I was PS2 Mrs. Ambika Soni, who was earlier tourism and culture, then information broadcasting. I worked in multiple roles. So I've worked away from my core area in a major way because a civil servant does general things, so don't bother. That's not a very specialty. In this place, there's a word called untendered. In Government of India, nothing untendered exists. Like say, if IIM wants to refurbish this auditorium, he'll have to go in for a tender, which is expression of interest, and then follow a process and give it to L1 subject to certain quality factors coming into it. The word untendered I have heard in this state for the first time. Means there will be no tendering. I like your face, I like your smile. Here it is, please build it. So this is the way the state has functioned in the past. Then comes in. Typically in India, you'll have school building shortages because they're defunct, the teachers are not there, so there's a problem, so you don't have money to it. This place has 1,500 surplus schools, which there are no teachers and no children. They were built because I like you, so I must give you something, so you could build it. So we have 1,500 surplus school building in the state where I don't have either children or teachers doing it. We don't need them, yet we have built that part. So in the end, you have no tendering, you have no administrative approval, nothing exists on a piece of paper on a government file, and something was sanctioned. You might think it's a slow process, but without a due process, how do you complete the process? Like if you have a case to file, you'll have to go to court and file a petition. You can't just go verbally and argue it out. The due process in terms of tendering, in terms of administrative approval has never ever existed, and we have built capacity, which is much more and many times more than what we require. And yet we don't have roads in the states which service all villages. Yet we don't have electricity in all villages. That's an embarrassment. Now let's take it slightly further. Most of you must have flown into Jammu. There's a, if you see next time you travel, there's on the right, there's a hangar being completed. You see it incomplete. Even state officials don't know about it because I look after the aviation portfolio also, so I know about that part. The building is being built for the last 15 years. What is a hangar? Just a garage. You park your aircraft and choppers. We have one small aircraft and 2 choppers, so we just park it out there. It should give you enough roof space right? Just to cover that I'm now safe in like rain or water. It's not an air-conditioned space you're creating of that sort. The initial cost in 2006 was 17 crores. When I came in, I saw the unfinished building, asked questions, what happened, what went wrong. I was told the money is over. Now it needs additional 18 crores, that is a total of 35 crores to complete the place, which was shocking to me because I have made things 35 crores for a hangar where you just aircraft makes no sense to me. And most of the building was complete except the roof. Then I checked the details. The roof was supposed to be 6 feet thick for insulation. Aircraft flies in minus temperature. It doesn't require a safe ceiling. It's not a ICU for children or NICU. It's a very sturdy piece of machinery. Yet somebody to load the cost did that part. Either way, to cut a long story short, I said, take this off. My powers are 20 crores. I'll just give you 17 crores plus 3 crores and finish the part up, put a simple roof, open the tarmac route. We'll go ahead with that part. Even that has not been done down till because 7 crores of the 17 crores are missing. This is an airport at Jammu where every VVIP or every senior bureaucrat, any senior minister would travel. This is not a small town road in Bhadarwa in Doda district that no one knows what happened. This is the level of brazenness that has happened. Sorry for using the hard words. But I do not belong to the cadre. I will not say her beyond a point because my future is also very clear. But it's time to speak the truth. The state has been governed in its own interest in a strange factor. Just give you a small figure. In the 75 years of independence, I'll say 47 onwards, this state has seen investment of less than 15,000 crores. 75 years. Now, comes a further shocking fact. You erect a giant tariff barrier at Lakhanpur border. Nothing crosses that part unless this is a penalty part. So first thing, outside stuff cannot come in cheaply, so I can make expensive things out here, which what a tariff barrier does. You must be aware of that part. 2, whatever I make at whatever cost, the state will buy it. You cannot take it from outside. So say, suppose I have a laptop being made in Pondicherry and I can buy it cheap out here. No, you have to buy an J&K made one only. Cost will go up, which means you have a choice of making your laptop cost very high. There's no need for being efficient. So I'll say cost plus, end of it. This is what the 370 removal has dismantled. That's what I'm saying. This was the platform I was trying to show you. What has happened? You erect a tariff barrier. You buy whatever I sell at whatever cost, at whatever efficiency I do it. No laws apply to me. There's no right to information. A lot of things cannot be done. I will not give approvals. I can do what I want because something I can't say in public, so I won't say in public. I'll talk off the record and all that stuff. But I can do what I want. This is still a riyasat mindset, not a modern government mindset. India also has its own flaws, own limitations, own problems. But this is far too primitive. And remember the fact, it's not a poor state. It's a very affluent state. I'm not sure how many of you have traveled to Kashmir or seen the part. I come from the poor state of Bihar, which your director does also. Ask me what poverty is. I thought I knew poverty till I traveled recently and was there for a couple of years working with in the Patna headquarters. I could see what poverty was. It still shocks you. I thought I knew what it is. It didn't prepare me. This place is miles ahead. It's as good as any developed southern state. Everybody has a house. Everybody has a toilet in their house. Everybody has decent jobs. If not, at least they have enough money to do what they want. So poverty is not a problem this state has. Just to give you more facts, this state has the least number of poor people taking the PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, the food grain. Not even 5% people took that part. And even that is a siphoning off rather than real requirement. Gujarat has 16%. So we're looking at that sort of model. So there is a problem. When I was in Dubai recently for all the issues of the MOUs and all that stuff, the amount of, the number of settlers from Kashmir and Jammu in Dubai is amazing. So they are pretty well off. They are able to afford a much better lifestyle than what most people in the country can do. And this has come at a cost. Now look at the cost. And these are numbers I have been saying it in the public forum earlier, but I'm just repeating for because everybody may not have been there. The GDP of the state is roughly 1.8 lakh crores. Broad numbers, ballpark numbers. The state budget is 1,10,000 crore, which means there's nothing beyond government, just 70,000. And even that is a high tariff wall, high barrier game plan that you get into it. Out of this 1,10,000 crore, 70% goes on revenue, which is salary, which means the state doesn't get much except paying you a salary and doing your work. So less than 30% is on the capex part of it. Can anybody guess the amount of taxes we raise in the state? If my budget is 1,10,000 crores, how much taxes do I raise in the state? I've said this number earlier in public forum, so I'm just asking any of you. 1,10,000 is my expenditure. How much do I raise as taxes? 9,000 crores. Not even 10%. Where does the money come from? The government of India subsidizes the state to the extent of 90% plus, 1 lakh crore a year. Now let me put numbers in perspective. Bihar, my home state, has 10 times the population. I'm a proud Bihari. I'm not saying I'm not. The state has lots of difficulties, but let me still say positive about it because I have been away from my home for too long, but then I know what's right or wrong. 10 times the population, 3 times the budget. Do you realize the per capita which happens? UP, 20 times the population, only 5 times the budget. That means you're nearly 4 times the level of any average large Bihari state. I'm not comparing to southern states because this is what I should compare. They typically raise 50 to 60% as taxes of the expenditure. Of course, central share comes in, subsidy comes in, some interest is taken out, loans are taken out. But this is the gap which the country is funding. So the question of why is there a terrorism angle is always to be wondered because the economy is being subsidized substantially by the mainstream country. Now this cannot continue. This is too large an amount to just go down the drain as salaries and all that stuff. That's where the transformation requirement comes in. Poorly governed, rich state, yet not effectively utilized, living off subsidy, which is not the right way ahead. This has to change. This is where 370 comes in. Post 370, 35A goes out. Then the UTs comes into play. All the GFR, which is General Financial Rules of Government of India, start playing into it, which means even if I need to buy a pen, it has to be comfortable because we use our terminology quite often. Most of you are yes and young kids, so you would know it. GEM is government in the marketplace. Like if I need a chopper services, I have to first go on GEM, certify that it's not there on GEM, then I only can buy it. Which means any bidder in the country can bid. Physically, he may be anywhere, no barriers are there. Which means the established interests out here is feeding the heat. I will not buy a product for twice its value. I will buy it for in a competitive way, whatever the value the country may offer. And technically, what is country? This is also part of the country. There's no question about that part. So this is what has happened. The general financial rule asks us to get into the GEM mode, which we have got into it, has hurt a lot of local interest. But this is where transformation starts happening. Now, before I was being reduced, was mentioned the figure was mentioned for the central sector scheme. That's what the industrialization is all about. 28,400 crores. This is just abstract number because when I came in first, this is end February, same time roughly. I did land on 23rd. I was staying next door in the state guest house. So I've been a neighbor for 3 months actually. That's how I dropped by. Now I no longer live out here. So my target was 10,000 crores of investment because the scheme, I'll just give you brief details. You can read that part, but let me just give the larger intent. Gives you 3 times intensive, 3.5 times incentive. 10,000 was the target. LG said make it 25. Today, we have firm offers of 50,000 crores plus. That's the number you're looking at. Now, remember the figure I told you, 15,000 crores in 75 years. I'm looking at 50,000 crores in 1 year. That's a quantum leap that happened. That's what transformation is all about. Transformation cannot be a slow process. It needs to be a very rapid process. You have to dismantle the entire regime which works in that system. And then write fresh rules which are new ones. Prime Minister will be here this coming March. In fact, LG has already made a public announcement. He will do the groundbreaking for investment worth 30,000 crores, which means they will start building the operations. And these are big names. So I'll come to that later part, but this is the change that we have been able to deliver in a year's time, fundamentally because we dismantled whatever was here. Most of it is flawed because it's being run in a sheltered banner in a Riyasti mindset. Doesn't matter. It matters. So somebody, recently I had gone back home for a small wedding, my wedding. So somebody asked me, how do you find working in the state government? I said, no, I'm not working in the state government. They are working in the central government. The roles have swapped because they are following new rules. I'm not changing it. I'm actually following what I was doing all my life. It's they who have come into a system which now they are being held accountable for whatever is happening. So larger part, that investment has now hit 50,000. We will get much more than that. Fundamental change in land laws have been done. Earlier, in fact, as a even general and studies party would understand that you couldn't buy land in the state. There was a limitation. Today, you can buy land. Now, the bigger change which happened for industry is you can buy agricultural land also and get the change of land use done. Every state has a policy of change of land use. Agriculture goes into commercial, then into industry. It's a large part because you can't just grow crops all over. So there's a process of change of land use. The process is either good or bad, I'll leave it at that point, but this state never had a process. That means I had to stay an agriculturist. Now, how many have traveled from Kazigund by road to Srinagar? Anybody? What happens from Kazigund to Srinagar on the highway? Right next to it, left, right. What do you do? What happens? What activity is going on there? It's a highway, NH44, 4-lane. A lot of things should be happening. What happens? धान उगाई जाती है. Simple answer. A typical NH of that level, which carries the entire volume into Kashmir Valley, should have been an industrial or commercial hub. We just grow paddy. And remember one thing, Kashmir Valley is one crop a year. Winter, there's nothing because it was snowed out. I was coming yesterday, it was just completely snowed out. So one crop a year is what I use my highways for. World over, highways are used for commercial and industrial activity because that's what the accesses are. We don't, because you could not change the land use. If you are agriculturist, you stay where you are. You only grow naan, paddy. This is no longer there. From 14 January onwards, the policy has been changed. The Deputy Commissioner will issue the orders in 30 days for change of land use subject to papers being complete. That means it's not illegal, it's not a waterway and other stuff. Basic rules. This is a shift which was never ever here in this state. These are strong words to use. The package I was telling you about that part, let me use a very stronger word. This is the best package any state has ever got in the history of the country or will get. Let me give a small number. The investment of 100 crores in a plant and machinery. Land is not a part of it, building is not a part of it because it has been traditionally been siphoned off by most people. So we don't do that part. We will give you a minimum return if you are in production of 350 crores in 10 years. 100 crores gets you 350 crores. Minimum number, if not more. Two major components. Details are there on the website. You can check out invest.jk, but I'll just use one. We will give you 3 times the GST refund of a plant investment, which is if you invest 100, I'll give you 300 crores and roughly give you 6% interest subvention for 7 years, which is roughly 50 crores in a given investment of 100 crores. So nowhere in the country this sort of incentive is available. Now the figure of 28,400 crores is not the final figure. Of course, it will be matched to investments of 50,000 crore plus. It will go much more. That means we are roughly looking at 1.5 lakh crores of investment being made. But then your youngsters, I just give you a number, 1 lakh crores annual subsidy out here. A 50,000 crore investment will change the place. Transform it completely because we have done 15 and 75, we'll do 50 in 1. I had come here in early May. I was looking after oxygen also. I'm using a personal narrative. I'm not just trying to lecture out to you because I must share my experiences with you. Someday I was also sitting in that class listening to somebody who was telling me something. So I got more wisdom from the experiences rather than theories because theory can do it. You don't need me for that. You are much smarter than me in this case. So I had come to meet Professor Sahai that day. So he was talking about the night flights and all because I look after aviation also. I told him I'll get it done. Couple of months is all that I required. When I came in first on 23rd February, I remember the date because it's important to that part. I was told there's no flight after 3 o'clock. You can't get into Jammu. Amusing because sound very stupid because what's wrong with this February that I can't come into it. I asked chaps around, they had nobody an idea. I didn't even have the charge of the airport at that point. I launched the night flights from Srinagar on 19th March. 23rd July was when Jammu got it. The runway was shot. On 30th September, we extended the runway. It took the last minute push. Of course, it was a work in progress for many months and many years, I would say. We had a 30% load penalty because the runway was short, the quality was not good enough. We got that removed on 30th September. The traffic shot up by 32% the next day. One day, it was being artificially being restrained. Today, the traffic is up by more than 50%. Now, if say assume only 1/10 people stay back, that means per month you need 5,000 hotel nights, an upper affluent level. We don't have it. We're short of hotel rooms. I was in Srinagar 3 days, 4 days ago. Despite the peak of winters, in February is not a tourist season, not a single hotel room was available. That's what the economy boom is all about. That's what changes. Srinagar saw its highest traffic in history in December, November and December, peak winter months. 3,60,000 a month, which is 12,000 per day. those numbers are now they are unable to handle it. What unlocks this potential? Take off the penalty, take off the part. More importantly, reduce the VAT on ATF, aviation turbine fuel. ATF is still at petroleum and electricity, or state subject, doesn't come under GST. We dropped it from 26.5% to 1%. 1% means they don't have to pay now handling charges at the airport, which makes it cheaper for airlines to fly in and keep out there. In the next 15 days, you will see a night aircraft parked out here. That means you come in 9 o'clock in the night and leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. So you can do both late night, early morning. So you can go in the morning, come back. It's still 9 o'clock, so 7 o'clock is what I look at. You come in at 9 o'clock, leave at 7 o'clock, which means you can park an aircraft in both Jammu. And this is about both Jammu and Srinagar, because you are GNK, so I'll talk about that. We have yesterday got the clearances from the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security for the international cargo terminal coming up in Srinagar. Why? We have engaged with Dubai in a major way. It's a major geopolitical strategy. I can't say in public beyond that part, but you can guess what I'm hinting toward. The geopolitical strategy to engage with the UAE in a major way to invest money. The names I can confirm to you. DP World will be here. It's one of the world's biggest logistics players. They are looking at a line, shortlisted part, and yes, when the PM is there, they will formally announce that part. Lulu will open a mall. MR will be here. And I'm not sure if you have heard the name Noon.com. It's a competitor of Amazon in the Gulf, because Saudi Arabia and Gulf, the UAE are propping it up against Amazon. So Noon is a pretty big player. Two major multi-purpose commercial towers with MR. One in Jammu, that's the Jammu Heart next to it, and one in Srinagar. We need now more flights to the Gulf region to take our products. I'm not sure how many of you have tried Gucci mushrooms, because they taste very good, but they're very expensive. Now Gucci is being sold in Dubai. The milk products, processed, will get sold in Lulu markets. It's important to look at the end-to-end, because a lot of times you send a product, there are no distribution issues, because nobody distributes them. I'm not sure if some of you have traveled to Dubai or not. Lulu is one of the biggest markets in that region, and they are of Indian origin. So they have been here a couple of times. They will now source 5 tons of cargo from this place every day, which means, of course, more money for my people, which growers, farmers, dairy, and all that stuff. Now, this is a point where Kashmir must look and ask itself, what is this transform into? Jammu is an industrial production belt, because it's more like Punjab, flat plains, and all that stuff. Kashmir is not the same. It's a different character. Logically, as you can guess, I need hotels. One of a good part of my job in the summer rush is that to get hotel rooms for people. Believe me. And the price is not a discussion. Hotel room is a discussion. I was in Gulmarg day for yesterday. The room rent was 35,000. That's sort of level you're looking at. This needs to be addressed. Hotels all across. Sunmarg doesn't have a decent hotel. Now the Marriott is coming up. We are supporting them. We need branded hotels, need more flights. This summer, Srinagar will see an average of 60 flights a day, up from 35 earlier. That's the volume you're looking at into it. Late night flights. We had an international flight running, and again, there was a COVID disruption, but again, they'll come back in 5th March, they're again back in action. We need connectivity. We need to export our goods out from it, which means creating a policy which enables this to happen. It's not government job to win business. I'm not saying this December. August 2023, the railway line will run through from here to Srinagar, which means the entire cargo train will run. It's an all-weather, high-speed, electrified track, which means it doesn't make a difference damn what Banihal means or Peer Panjal means. It's over. It's just 200 kilometers from Jammu to Srinagar now, because we'll cut through tunnels. I've often been to the bridge. It's a quite engineering marvel site, so you'll see it someday when you're traveling at that point. The NHI 4-laning will be complete late next year, which means today, right now, my people do it in 4.5 hours. We should be able to do it in less than 4 hours. Roads come up, trains come up, your cargo starts moving in, aviation has boomed off. Connectivity will no longer be an issue for a landlocked or hill-locked state like Jammu and Kashmir. This problem would be solved. Now, let me take you to electricity factors. How many of you know what is the installed capacity in electricity in India? I have just come from that sector, so I can rattle off numbers. Anybody? 4 lakh megawatt. Let me give you a number. That's the installed capacity. You can Google it. It's on the CEA website, Central Electricity Authority website. So roughly, I'm using ballpark numbers. 396 was the number, so I'm saying 4 lakh. Any given day, India can produce 3 lakh megawatt, because keep solar, keep wind, summer side, hydro side, that may or not happen. What is the peak load India has ever asked? Ever? Any numbers? What is the maximum power we have ever consumed any given day? Not touch 2 lakh. You realize what I'm saying? We have 1 lakh megawatt surplus today. Power is not a constraint. Your constraint is you can't make it reach the local distribution center. If I have a river flowing next to my house, you don't have a pipe system, it won't reach my house. I can't wish it into it. Problem is not power. India is far too surplus power. Far too surplus. And no buyers actually. Half the time your plants are shut down because you don't have people buyers of it. Your distribution is a problem. You're unable to pick up the money that's required to be done. Most states now resort to load shedding only because they can't pay the money required. Because if I do not pick up the money from your house or from you or your business, how do I pay the one ahead of it? So there's a huge gap coming into that part. That's why a lot of schemes had a problem in this case. You need to collect the money which people are using. That's not happening. So Kashmir has a power constraint, but my guess is given this calendar year, it should be over. Supply is a problem, not it's a distribution problem, not the supply factor of it. So this year power will go away, transportation issue will go away. Now let me take I'll just deviate a bit from here because I'm also the nodal officer for ease of doing a business and minimizing regulatory compliance burden. Today, we have 135 permissions on single window system, common application form. The actual website is called singlewindow.jk.gov.in. We are integrated with the national single window system also. It's all based on rapid assessment system. That means I get a feedback also. If you apply, say, for setting up an industry, you need 10 permissions. All 10 permissions, the common permission is a part of it. Only what is separate is coming into that part. So you'll have a dashboard, both you and me as an observer, as to what is permission being given in time or not. Which means no piece of paper is required to be filed physically, ever. My joke is that you can even register your dog with Jammu municipality on the online part, so although nobody bothers with that stuff. So today in the industry department and now increasing other departments, you never ever have to file a piece of paper. It's all online. Industry department, I can vouch straight away, no paper is required. In government, if you can ever get a chance, some of your colleagues had a chance to see me, I don't touch a piece of paper. I have no printers. I do not do a mission which has happened in the last 1 year, next door, or whether you're in Jammu or Srinagar or in Delhi. Files are files. I've cleared files from abroad also. So there's this huge shift happening. And what I would like to emphasize is the fact that this couldn't have been possible in a small graded manner. This has to be hit very hard. Now, let me ask a question, any of you, answer this question. If I have a limited resource like land and I have more demand for it because more people want to take it away, how do I allocate land to industrial users? Then you are just selling land, then I'll auction it in that case. Government should not get into ownership mode because you'll take me under because government PPP model means money is lost forever. How do you judge that? How do I decide that? Of course, I'm giving government land. Government means people's land for a purpose. Of course, I need some investment. How do I determine that proper proportion? So there are multiple thoughts. One is auction, one is first come, first serve, one is correlated data. We have a system which frankly we tried across because EY is my consultant out here, though they have worked with us. It has not been touched by any state, but we have done that part. And there are two major policy initiatives I'll talk about because that's what transformation is all about. I have roughly 3 times the demand of land than what I have, 3 times the word. I have 16, not even 15,000 canals. I'm looking at 45, 50,000 canals. So of course I can't give it to everybody. How do you determine it? We ask you to upload your DPR. You have a project report. You tell me what you're doing. Fine. Now, how do we allocate land? This took some brainstorming, but now I'll make it simple. We give 40% marks on investment per canal, not gross investment, per land unit investment. You have to have unitized stuff. 40% on employment. That's a major target. As you mentioned, that what you're looking at. 10% to micro, small, and medium, because they also need to be protected in some way. Then 5% to women, other weaker sections, ex-servicemen, FDI, and other factors, and 5% to environmental weightage. This is the overall part. Based on this, we give you a certain percentage, and the highest investor is the high 100% percentile. So you're in relation to that factor. We have put up the entire allocation list on the website for public domain. That this is the mark criteria, this is what he applied for, this is what he was given for, and this is where he stands. Then it comes in merit and choice. If you're higher in the merit, you get a choice. The lower you are, you don't get it. Now this changes for FDI. Where FDI gets concerned, we just had a new policy. We made it 50% for investment and 50% for employment, because they're not small, micro, and small. So we overwhelmed that with stuff. So in that case, it's a much simpler process. But then the ticket size used to be 100 crores plus, not a small amount of investment. On 51% must be foreign direct investment. Medicity, same policy. 50% to beds per canal, 25% to employment, 25% investment. My point was, it's a very rational, logical public system. And entire information in public domain. I, till date, haven't got a single RTI issue about that. Because the entire allocation system is in public domain to everybody to see. There's nothing which is information hidden to me. I have no discretionary power, and which I keep often telling the Honorable LG also, he also has no discretionary power. Imagine I bound myself by that, but I cannot allot land to anybody whom I feel like. Neither can Honorable Lieutenant Government also do it. So we are in that sort of system where first thing what used to happen earlier, and I must tell you what used to happen earlier, I'll know you, so you want a piece of land, an installment of the loans. वो day one से NPA होता है. ऐसा आ गया, एक installment नहीं जाएगा. मतलब normally you have 3 months of non-payment, then you make an NPA. They have never ever paid an installment, and most of the time it's been waived off. Whose money? People's money. Even soft loans have not been waived off. The entire economy runs on OTS. What is a nice word? I also didn't realize that. One-time settlement. अब रफा दफा करो भाई, जो हुआ सो छोड़ो. It's a perpetual settlement. No one pays up. Loans are not paid back. Land is not given back. This is lawlessness. So my idea was to tell you that these are the facts that govern this state, and imagine what a challenge it is. For me, I'm somebody who works against headwinds, so that's what the advantage is. This gave me a chance to rewrite the entire rule. When my people filed application in a court, after 30 years of non-functioning of land, they didn't know why they were asking the land back. Basically, it's a fixed match being played out. Something is not right here. So they are finding it difficult because there are far too many changes happening at this point. But this change will transform the state. Nothing else can. It's an experiment. Let's hope we succeed. But I stand in front of you confirming it that I took up challenges from your director that I will launch the night fight. I did that part. And I'll do it better than that. We have given growth of 50% plus on a year-on-year basis. So the boom is there. The visibility is there. You don't have to rush to a government office to file a piece of paper. It's all online. And I hope it improves further. We are amongst the front line of the states in the country doing ease of doing business and minimizing regulatory compliance burden. We hadn't even heard these terms earlier. So there is a governance issue. But then my limited experience I've shared with you, because I don't want to go on and I like to discuss things with you, but we have been able to shift from a feudalistic mentality to a transparent open system, which I stand and say, this is on the website. I don't know who got the land. मुझे एक मिठाई का डब्बा भी नहीं मिला land के लिए अभी तक. I'm proud of it. Nobody needs to come to me. It's your right. I didn't do a favor. I got slightly delayed today. One is a traffic jam, so I've called the cop out here. Find out. Two was a major investor flew in. I won't take. He flew in, and they all come in their own chartered own aircrafts. I gave him land in October when the Home Minister was here. He's ready for operation next 15 days. That's the level of operation that's happening. One more example. I have an industrial state called Ghati. I have only one which is available allocation. The entire state did nothing in 10 years. It had roughly 1,000 canals, which is roughly around 120 acres. I had nothing more, so how much can you allocate? By change of land use and permitting them access to the industrial state, because that's what my commitment is, I've opened up 5,000 canals from private buyers. Typically, you know, because the government can't acquire land because I have to pay them 4 times, that's a law, and I have to go through economic impact assessment and social impact assessment. I can't do that part. So we take years and years doing that part. Today, the market is up and running on its own at the same rate level, which benefits the farmer because his potentials have been unlocked. Earlier, I had no option but to do it. Industries getting land to it, getting power from my industrial state, road access from my industrial state. This is the ecosystem we have created. The permissions, the land factor, the electricity part, the communications, the flights, the trains, the entire system will hopefully catapult the state into a very different situation where it is. So I won't take too long. I think I'm at the end of it because then we can have some discussion. Transformation is possible, actually is happening right now. So this is history in making. You'll read it later. And we are open to it. I'll give an example. Typically, secretariats are very tight places. So security, you have to walk quite a bit. So nobody likes to go in that stuff. Every day in Jammu and Srinagar, I sit in my industry's office, meet everybody without appointment. You can walk in. Anybody can walk in. Everybody is the word I'm saying. Every working day I'm there, meeting everybody. Which means brazen corruption can't take place because people know you're available. Because if the top man means everybody, why would anybody hold them back? Now they're sure that if their files are held back or the processes are held back, they can approach me, tell me what's wrong. I may or may not solve all problems because some problems are not easy to solve. But at least if I'm accessible, we can resolve most of the issues in the right way. This has made a difference to us. People are available, accessible, and willing to do business. This is a fundamental shift. Of course, there are some naysayers who won't like it because in the end, there's certain entrenched rent-seeking interest. Remember that part, because a lot of people have also been benefiting from the system. They hate it. So your friends come later, enemies are first. They're right next here. So the people who are affected by it also get hurt. Transformation is never painful, yes. My DPA says change is the only constant in life. Now let me relate to my IIM part. One of my elective was change management. Very difficult professor, but outstanding subject, so and very good stuff. And incidentally, he was from here only, this part of the country. But outstanding. So one has to learn that change is what is we flourish on. It's a young nation. All of you are so young. India is two-thirds less than 35, or the average age is 28.5. We are old. I joke with my wife often. I'm 55 plus now. And when I go to mall, it says 40 plus, same age group. Sab barabar hai. Koi farak nahi padta. You're too old. That's why we joke around. So it's a young nation, needs to change itself, fulfill its destiny, reach what is required to be done. We are much smarter than what we are getting. Much better. I was just coming to your institute and saw the traffic jam. I had to walk the last bit. How do we function like that? There's a bad patch of road on the main road of which the convention center. LG goes through it every time he goes through it. How does anybody tolerate that sort of stuff? Somebody has to question it. Push for change. Don't accept status quo. And I'm civil servant talking like this. You mentioned e-ticket. Now let me read that part. I was abroad for a couple of years. So when I came back, I realized the benefit of e-ticket, but e-ticket was in airlines, not in railways. Airlines were very small, the volume was very small. When I put the file up, it took me 2 years to convince people why it should be done. 2 years to convince people. The logic was very simple. Try it out. Let's see if it works. Doesn't work. It was not the way government works or government thinks. Let's try it out. If it doesn't work, fine. We'll see ahead. We don't want to take chances because there are no advantages of taking chances. The only disadvantages. Things go wrong, your problem. You're answerable for it. An e-ticket, I devised from end to end, assuming I was you traveling by a train, not a senior officer traveling by a train, which meant nothing should ever require me to go to a physical counter except traveling. And remember the word, this is 2004 we're talking about. The internet was not really into it, touch phones were not there, mobile phones are barely. My first mobile phone which I got, which saw mail, was BlackBerry in 2007. So it's later than that. This is what we're talking about, 2004, 18 years ago before. And I talked in 2002, took me 2 years to get it. In 2004, we launched ahead of airlines. Today, it's got so many awards, keeps getting awards, and has changed the way all of you have traveled, ever experienced that part. Transformation can be had done. This is a state undergoing a transformation. Part of the intent was to share the entire journey with you and make you believe in yourself. I'm here 55 and a half years old. Now I am a 90 batch officer. I have not spent enough in government. Now I'm at the end of my journey. But you are young. Believe in yourself. A lot can be changed. And it's changing. So morals should be up. Be patient with you and hearing me out. Thank you. Do you want questions to be taken? I can do it. I'm fine because somebody should have something, some query in their head. That's right. So fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So my question is, in the start of the talk, you mentioned that only 5% of the Shopian homes were having electricity meters.
5%.
Yeah, 5%. of the Shopian homes were having electricity meters installed. So when I went through some newspaper articles, I got to know that Government of India has planning of making Jammu and Kashmir energy surplus by 2025.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh,
India is energy surplus today,
yes,
as I
sir.
mentioned to you.
Yeah, and
JNK will become through hydro.
yes, sir. By having 22 small and mega hydel projects.
Absolutely.
So what's the electricity distribution roadmap ahead? And is it possible as J&K has untendered policy mindset earlier? So, yeah.
It has to undergo change as we discussed. Now there is nothing you can do without tendering. But simple issue as I answered earlier. Your distribution has to improve. Your local transformer has to be good enough. You don't have it. Your main transmission line are good enough. Your local network is not good enough. Actually, it's collapsed last year. There's a serious crisis. You didn't invest big enough. Honest answer. Historical legacy, we will change it. That's why I told you, this year end, you realize it difference. What happens. Will happen.
Question is related to my home state, Bihar. So you mentioned transformation can be a fast-track process, and you give the example of Jammu and Kashmir. So coming from Bihar and coming from the flood-hit areas of Madhubani, so my question is why fast-track transformation is not happening there since last 70 years? Why we are facing a flood situation there?
Answer is very simple. You should have the willpower to change. You know, change doesn't happen because you wish change. You should have the commitment to undergo the pain. You don't have it. But that's a discussion I won't bore on Biharis with. You don't have the commitment. I have worked there. I realized the state government has no commitment. But then I can't go on record, so keep it off. Done? Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, sir. So you were talking a lot of difficulties that we face, and since JNK used to be a conflict-driven economy, especially the Kashmir part, so sir, there would be certain individuals and interest people, certain who would be trying to make sure that the change doesn't happen. That you are so much to push. So I was just thinking, has the impact of fall of Afghan government and the influence of Taliban and now TTP is impacting our neighbor. So has it benefited us in a way or not? Because since 2019, Article 370 was removed, but sir, all of a sudden, like from whatever you're saying, we can see that change has become exponential now, rather than just becoming a linear. So sir, what has really changed from 2019 to 20 and 2021 to 2022?
Accountability is the first word. Rule of law is the second word. Third, the will to change. I'll just brief it like that. I can elaborate long, but I'll bore everybody else. Accountability. Your money has to be accounted for. You can't spend the money because you wished it away. Two, rule of law. You have to follow certain due process laid down by the government and constitution itself. And third is the will to change, that we can make a difference. You've seen I've given details of it. And these are real life examples. Tell me one answer. For 75 years since the independence, how come night flights never landed here? It's in the Air Force Base. It's in Pakistan, both locations. How come we never had it? What's the big deal about it? No one can answer the question. No one can answer the question today. Plus, nahi tha? That's where I should. Thanks a lot. So I think you have a next speak coming into it, so I'll not add to it further.
I request Dr. Prateek to deliver a vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. It was a great session. Always a pleasure to listen to you. And last time we had sir in our faculty development program. And after the program, I was getting so many calls from regions of Kashmir and from Jammu province. Sir, we would like to have more sessions with sir. So we know that sir is very busy, but sir kindly agreed to grace this leadership summit occasion for us. So thank you so much. And we look forward to have you in our future events as well. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, a small memento from our side.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Guys, please settle down, everybody. Everyone, please settle down. We'll begin the next session. Apologies for the delay, ma'am.
That's okay. I was listening to Ranjan sir, very, very nicely articulated. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay.
Ma'am, can we start?
Yes, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. So, women equal participation in the workforce is not only a demand for simple justice or democracy. Still, it can also be seen as a necessary condition for women's interests to be considered. Moving again with women panel topic, Envision, Empower and Exceed. We are delighted to introduce our next guest in this panel, Ms. Vinita Datla. She is the Vice Chairperson and Managing Director at Alico Limited. In her professional career of over 27 years, she has also served as a director at Anjani Portland Cement Limited, Managing Director at Rashi Finance and Investment Limited. She has also been honored with the Exceptional Leader of Excellence Award 2020, Business Excellence Award 2017, Mahila Ratna Award 2016. She is dynamic, extremely focused, and possesses the ability to think out of the box. Ma'am, we welcome you to this stage to share your insightful insights. The virtual stage is all yours, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And it's actually quite a pleasure to be speaking after Mr. Ranjan. So am I visible also to everybody? And I hope I can share my screen also. Am I visible?
Yeah, ma'am, you're visible.
Okay, and then I have the sharing rights to share my screen. I have a small presentation that I thought would make it more interesting for all the students. And one thing that I would like to comment upon, while I noticed during the Q&A of the previous speaker and the camera was panning forward and backward, very, very, very small representation of women in the room. So pretty male dominated, and that's how the world is today in every field. So given that context, and given the context of this entire conference, I would like to highlight the role of women that is necessary in today's world. So I'll share my screen. So I hope this is visible to everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what I would like to actually ask all of you, especially the boys who are sitting in that room, don't you feel something is different, or don't you feel that having no diversity, especially in the workplace, will it help you to have a sustainable future going forward? And we can make this a little bit interactive. I mean, if you hand over maybe a few mics to the students, maybe we could actually take some answers from them. And I just wanted to show them exactly, because none of us are going to ever see gender parity in our lifetime, not only in our own lifetime, but not even many of our children's lifetime, because there was a recent global gender gap report. And though this is of 2020, even the 2021 report has actually not been very conducive to us. And it shows that on an average in the entire world, it's going to take at least 100 years for the entire globe to become gender parity. And what do you mean by gender parity? It only means that equal opportunities are available for all genders. And today that is sadly missing. And as you see that small shows that the gender imbalance is very much prevalent, whether it's in academia, and very well visible in this particular room, where I think I can just see about 5 or 6 girl students or girls around in the group. So this is not going to help us as a nation. And as we are looking for development, this is never going to help us if we are going to skew the population. And if one set of the population is always going to be dependent on outcomes, on incentives, on opportunities from the other set of the population. So this is the current statistics. It's going to take more than 100 years. And in fact, India actually has slipped in these rankings, and they do have a gender parity index that I'm sure all of you can go on to Google and search it. And India has actually been slipping in this position, which only means to say that government or society or the citizens of the nation are actually not including gender as a construct. They are not including gender to be something that needs to be looked into, and they are not including this parity that is much, much necessary for having a sustainable tomorrow. So let me just show you another statistic. This is a pie chart of showing the global GDP. And I'm sure all of you do know what GDP is. That's the gross domestic product of a nation. And here we see on this pie chart that the United States is having a huge, or it's actually in the first place with almost a 20 plus trillion dollars of its GDP, followed by Germany. And then you have Japan, China, of course, Germany, Japan, and United Kingdom. And India is actually fast getting into that line, I mean, into that index. I think today we are about maybe the 5th or the 6th largest nation in the world in terms of our global, no, in terms of our gross domestic product. But what is surprising here is, if you again interlay this particular statistic with the statistic of our population, and this is what I'm showing here on the next slide, here India is almost neck to neck with China. So just looking at these two statistics, what does that actually tell you? It tells one that countries like the US population, in fact, they're hardly visible on this map, yet they contribute to a huge economy. Whereas countries, I mean, of course, here we can't compare China because China is also having a huge economy, but India, I think here is the outlier, with a huge population having an extremely small GDP of, I think, less than $3 trillion today as it stands. But our population is almost neck to neck with China, and we're almost at, I mean, maybe 1.3, maybe crossing 1.4 billion people. So what does that actually mean? It means that a very, very small percentage of that population is actually contributing to that economy, while the rest of the population has to depend on the economy for all its survival, for all its needs. And that apparently is going to be the crux of the matter when we are going forward in terms of development. Now here I'd like to highlight this, and this is very important for the boys in the class too, because tomorrow when you are growing up and you have your spouses coming in and you have, say, daughters, or you have your sisters, this is what will actually affect them. Today we see that the female labor force participation rates are very, very low in our country. And this is in spite of having fantastic qualified women. In fact, I'll give you one more statistic where India is actually #1 in this particular ranking. And what is this ranking? This is the ranking which shows countries which has the highest number of qualified homemakers. And what does that mean? That means that, yes, as a nation, we are educating our girl child. We're getting them the best of degrees, the best of certifications, the best of qualifications. In fact, you look at IITs, you look at IIMs, you look at all the best possible colleges and the institutions of higher learning, you do find women there. But are they getting translated into the workspace? Are they continuing? Are they sustaining in the workplace? Well, the answer is a big no, because we see that the labor force participation has actually been falling. And though this is the 2017 report, even the latest reports have shown that it is actually falling, dropping much faster. And this is another report that shows over the decades how the labor force participation is actually moving. If you look at the progressive nations, female labor force participation has actually been increasing. But in India, it seems to be the reverse. It seems to be dropping almost from 2005, 2006 onwards. What does this say? This says a lot about our culture, about our society. It says that we don't give importance to having women in the workplace. It gives importance to women to study. It gives importance to them to get qualified. And once they get married or once they have children, then I think culture and society takes precedence, and they say that please stay back home, take care of the family, take care of the children, and do not be economic participants to the nation, because the rest of the population, that is the male population, can take care of it. But this is sadly mistaken, because this is what is harming us today. And this is what is actually not allowing us to develop as we need to, like how the progressive nations are developing. So as I told you that 130 population, 1.3 billion population, though doesn't contribute to the economy, a very, very small percentage contributes to creating that $3 trillion economy. The entire 1.3 billion requires the infrastructure of the country. And all of you just listened to the previous speaker who said while he was traveling to your institute, the road was also pretty bad, and no, it was not laid properly, or it had potholes, and there was a traffic jam, so he had to walk to to reach your institution to make it on time. What does that mean? Though I'm not an economic contributor to the country, I need all the infrastructure. I need the education, I need electricity, I need healthcare, I need academia. I mean, everything. I need water, I need drinking water, I need food. But am I doing something to contribute to it? No, I'm not. Am I eligible to do that? Yes, because I'm qualified, but I'm happy sitting at home. And this is not to demean those who have chosen to stay at home. But as a nation, we cannot afford that anymore. And this is where we require male champions. This is where we require more encouragement from social structures like the government, like the educational institutions, like society, like the corporate world, who encourage women to come back, to make it more flexible, to make them more enabled to stay and sustain at the workplace. Because today, maybe the policies are not conducive to them. It cannot be just this or that. Why cannot it be this and that? And that is where I think people like you who come in from the IIMs will definitely use your intelligence to come out with this newer constructs in the workplace tomorrow. Like today, work from home has become such the norm because of the pandemic, the disruptions that are brought in by the pandemic. Why couldn't other policies also be looked into the similar manner? Similarly, I just showed another slide on what solutions are required today to make a sustainable world, a sustainable environment for us to live in. Yes, only if all genders contribute to it, only if all genders bring in their perspectives, because what a minority can actually bring to the table will not represent the majority interests. And today it is only a minority who's sitting in policy formulation bodies. It is only a minority that is actually formulating those policies that will address the majority, but it may not take into respect all the perspectives that the majority requires. So what do we do about that? All of you must be knowing about the sustainable development. Say number 13, which is climate in action, which also talks about sustainability. We look at good health and well-being, which looks at sustainability for the human beings. We look at quality education. We look at no poverty. How can you make a nation no poverty if you are not allowing half of your population to even have access to the opportunities? The other half will always be dependent on the half that is actually earning, which is not going to help us in the long run. If you look at number 10, which is reduced inequalities. Today, you have a huge divide between the rich and the poor, between the educated and the non-educated, between men and women. How do you reduce these inequalities? And that is where young minds like you will have to work towards creating solutions for these long-standing problems. I strongly believe that women belong in all places where decisions are being made. And I'll give you an example. Very recently, all of you must be aware that the amendment to the Maternity Act has happened, I think, sometime in 2014 or 15. And from 14 weeks, I think it was made to about 26 weeks of paid leave for mothers who are having babies. And this is how the corporates allow them to take those 26 weeks of leave. Now, there are nations in this world that are giving 1 year or 2 years of maternity leave. They are giving 1 year of paternity leave. They are encouraging both parents to take a very, very hands-on approach in taking care of their children. Would you mean to say that, first of all, leaving a baby at 3 months in the home or under somebody else's care and coming back to the workplace will have huge sort of trauma and mental depression for the mother? And yet corporates don't recognize this. But do you think that making it from 14 weeks to 26 weeks will reduce it any further? Because at 26 weeks, your baby must be about 6 months old, and she or he is interacting with you, and it will be all the more, the bond is stronger, and it will be all the more difficult for you to leave the baby and come back to work. And will you be able to put your best self at the, my husband is not, he's working in a different city, and I need to shift there, or maybe my mother-in-law doesn't want me to work because she wants me to take care of household chores, or maybe I have young children, I can't take care of them and balance work. How can we as corporates enable them to come back? How can we give them that flexibility to be able to maybe work from home, or come part-time to the office, or maybe share responsibilities with another person, so that two of them together are responsible for one type of a job work? Are we looking at these sort of disrupting policies in the corporate place? And that is where I think people like you should start looking into these areas. I mean, you are studying in the topmost management field. So management is all about this. How do you not lose your assets that you have invested so much in training and educating? It's very, very simple. You look at a regular financial transaction. When you invest in something, you expect certain outcome from that. You expect certain returns from that. Now, we as a nation have been investing in our women for decades. We have been educating them, we've been training them, but then we are not getting the returns that we would like to see from these women. So the responsibility lies on women also, and the responsibility and the championing lies with the men too, because today they are the ones who are making all these decisions. So I sort of also have faced a lot of discriminations in my own professional and personal space all throughout my life. Today I'm 54 years, and I've come to a level where I'm able to at least mentor youngsters, and I'm able to champion a lot of more women to come to the workspace, to sustain at the workplace. But all of this actually means that we need those good leaders who are actually enabling better policies in the society, in the environment, in the nation, to be able to make a better place for the next generation. If we have not crossed certain bridges, it becomes all the more difficult for the next generation to cross those bridges. See, I might have fought a lot of discriminatory battles during my lifetime, but if I don't say anything, if I don't speak up, then the same battles will have to be faced by my daughter, maybe by my daughter-in-law. And if they also don't do anything, then again, the next generation, that is my granddaughters, will have to face the similar issues. So I think it is our responsibility that where we can and however we can, we should start mending the system. We should mend the system to enable more inclusion, to enable more integration of all people. See, today, women empowerment is being spoken about. Maybe 100 years down the line, we achieve gender parity. What happens to the other set of genders? You have the transgenders, you have the third gender. They become the minority. Who's going to speak about their plight? Who's going to include them into society? So I think when we as women are doing it, we are more empathetic. We should allow this integration to happen across the spectrum. They're irrespective of whatever their background, their caste, their creed, their nationality, their ethnicity. No barrier should be there for these people. So I've actually coined these 6 ups of leadership, which I have actually been taught by a professor actually in Tokyo, and she was very, very articulate in trying to students. And she mentioned that it is very nice to articulate leadership in 6 ups. So the 6 ups I'm going to show you are: feel inhibited, that whatever is there, the men are there to take care of it. Let them only handle it, or let somebody else handle it. Why should I actually, stretch myself to do it? But showing up is actually half the battle won. And that is what we need to advocate. We need to champion. We should cajole more and more women to actually attend issues that are actually today affecting the society. And only when you know that this is happening and you show up at these places and these instances, then you will be able to contribute towards its solution. The next up is, of course, as I said, speak up. And definitely as women, we've been taught, I think the Indian culture has been in such a manner that we've taught to be more silent. We've taught to be more calm. We've taught not to rock the boat. But this will not help us out, because unless we speak out, our perspectives will never be known to the other side. You cannot blame the men too, because today if a man has created a policy, thinking that it has enabled the women, you never know that he may not be thinking about in your shoes. Today, a man may not have carried a baby for 9 months, so they may not be having that empathy also. So that's when the more diversity you have on, say, policy making bodies, the better those policy outcomes are. So speaking up is very, very necessary. And here, while the women are encouraged to speak up, it also means that the men need to allow the women to speak up, because a lot of times men sort of don't listen, they don't actively listen to what women are saying, or not to the minorities what they are saying. So this is also a awareness for the men that you also need to start listening to the other side of the story and bring in that perspective too. The third up is to look up. And here looking up has two connotations. One is you look at your future, you look at your goals, you look at mentors who can actually help you reach to that goal. Looking up also means that you look at the bigger picture. When I gave you a bigger picture of how India is, India is at so-and-so rank in the global GDP ranking, it is in so-and-so rank in the gender parity ranking. So how can we as an individual contribute to the nation to help the nation become number one or number two in those rankings? We cannot criticize the government. We cannot say policymakers are not looking into this. We cannot say corporates are not looking into this. We also as an individual have a responsibility. So always look at the bigger picture and strive to reach and contribute your might to that. Also look up to role models and mentors who can help you shape your own personality and help you become a better person or a better version of yourself. The fourth up is to team up. All of you know that teamwork is extremely relevant at the workplace, but also know that teamwork is also relevant in the personal space. We need to build up personal teams to help us balance our work and our personal life so that we are able to carry on both together. There may be times where personal life takes precedence, like suppose at the birth of a child, or the child is not well, you need to take off a year or two and take care of the child. Or maybe you have elderly parents or in-laws to take care of, and then you do come out of the workspace. But the thing is, what I would like is if you create teams that will enable you to actually come back to the workspace where you are needed, where your presence is much more desired. Also, how you create teams in your workspace, it is imperative that you start creating those teams also in every domain of your life. The fifth up, very, very, very important, especially for women. Don't give up. And it is very easy. Life throws us so many hurdles. Every hurdle enables us to give up. But we have to be strong enough not to give up. Take breaks, take longer breaks if necessary, but skill yourself, make yourself relevant to whatever is happening in the world today. Maybe reskill yourself, but always do come back and strive to become economic participants of the nation, because only that will help us in nation building today. And that is required for our country, for our nation. And the very last up that I will show you in a little while is very, very, very critical for leaders. 1 million followers on, say, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or they have no huge people coming out to their conferences or to their meetings. No, true leader means that they create a lot more followers behind, a lot more leaders. Does not create followers, but a true leader creates a lot more leaders under them. And so lift others up is the last up of leadership. That is, once you come to a level where you feel satisfied that you have come to a certain stature in life, ensure that you use your stature to build and lift other people up to that level so that it helps them go that extra mile. And with these few ups, I'd like to conclude my talk. I would like to thank the entire management of IIM Jammu for inviting me over. Had the environment been different, I definitely would have traveled down to Jammu and to be at the campus, maybe interacted with all the students. But maybe I'm hoping that in future, once we come out of this pandemic situation and travel is more easier, then I will have the opportunity to come down and to meet all of you. And on my last note, I would like to congratulate the entire batch of this IIM. And I hope that tomorrow you become citizens of this nation that we can become proud of, because you have enabled policies that have created a fantastic ecosystem for every citizen in this country. So on that note, thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. On the very first note, we look forward to hosting you pretty soon. As you expressed your desire to come to Jammu, we would love to have you on our campus and do this in an offline mode whenever possible.
Definitely, definitely.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was an incredibly insightful session. I'm sure a lot of my friends here would have a lot of questions for you. So,
sure, I'm happy to take them.
Sure, ma'am. People with questions can raise their hands.
So I see a lot of the ladies are actually online and not sitting there in the classroom.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for your session, ma'am. It was really insightful, and actually the dialogue on women has been going on for decades, ma'am. I personally have witnessed 2 decades, but you very rightly mentioned that it's still very much prevalent. The issues that we keep saying have been solved, etc. For instance, even you spoke about equity versus equality, ma'am, and that is something really important. What really means that you are making gender parity? It's about equality, but equality is not desired nowadays. So because overcorrection might be important in order to bring the uplift the status to equal the starting line. So ma'am, regarding that, my question was that the industry bodies that work with our government today and even traditionally have been quite underrepresented by women. So do you feel that a period of overcorrection is necessary in order to set things straight before we can gradually include more women into the workforce as well as the industry? Because that's just way too gradual, and like you mentioned, the problems persist.
So I actually do advocate for quota systems, which is very necessary until we actually come to the level playing field. So today, I know a lot of people are not very happy with quota systems. They don't like the 33% and say parliament. You take the parliament, for instance. I mean, we've been trying to get 33% women representation in the parliament, and we've been failing to do that. And then a lot of people have spoken that why quota system? We are in the 22nd or 21st century. Let it all be on meritocracy. But for meritocracy to work, we've not been given that opportunity in the past. So suppose today you are in IIM and you're applying, say, for a position in one of the fantastic firms, and there is a person who's from a very, very small MBA college somewhere in a tier 3 town. Who do you think that this fantastic company is going to choose? I mean, all things being equal, they might choose you because you have come from a prestigious institution. So there itself, it is not a level playing field. So unless we remove the institution from both your resumes and saying that it is only the marks that are there, and then your interview where you don't talk about, say, your academic institution, maybe then the company will not look at that as a parameter to choose you. Today, why are all the big companies flocking to the cream of the institutions, whether it is the IIMs or the IITs? Why don't they go to the tier 3 towns? When I remember when we spoke to Microsoft long back, they said, no, we only go to the tier A colleges, and that tier A is only the IITs and the. So quota system, I would personally, if you ask me, I would encourage it until we come to a certain a scale there. So if that scale is then achieved, then we remove those things. But unfortunately, in our country, what happens? The quotas go on forever and ever and ever and ever. There is no end in sight. So I think we have to articulate clear-cut mandates, clear-cut goals, saying that in the next 5 years or in the next 3 years, we need to achieve this. Now, the other thing that has come up is now India, the law has mandated that all listed companies need to have at least one women director on board. And it was very, very difficult for all the listed companies to get women directors on board because they didn't consciously look for it, or they didn't look deeper enough. So the thing is, even though there are mandates, a lot of companies had to pay penalties because they could not get women, even that one women director on board. So I think, if you ask me personally, industry forums, corporates, everywhere, I think we need to have certain quotas, and maybe for the next 5 years, and then we cut it off there, and then we bring in, and then we look at what went wrong or what went right, and then we work on that.
Thank you, ma'am. Really glad to hear
Thank
that.
you for your question.
Prateek, you can go ahead with your question.
I think there are a lot more on the Zoom also who have raised their hands, so we can take those also later on.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
After Prateek, you
Ma'am,
can
so
do
am I
that.
audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, ma'am. So my concerns were like the number of women in the workforce is increasing day by day. But when we look at the leadership roles, there is not a substantial number of women leaders. For example, if we look at the Fortune 500 companies, then roughly 8 or 8.1% of the CEOs are women. And there is always a glass ceiling. So how do we cross the threshold of that glass ceiling? And if we go to the corporate governance, then the number of women that are there, that number substantially decreases. Like that is even lesser. So what are the needful steps that should be taken in order to increase this number or rather proliferate it? What do you suggest?
Yeah, so one thing that you made a statement that day by day women participation in the workplace is increasing, which is actually sadly wrong because the statistics are showing that today India is one of the lowest countries. In fact, in Asia, we are, I think, the second from the bottom in terms of women participation in the workspace. So what you rightly pointed out is because when you have very few women coming into the entry level and for them to grow, and all these milestones, one, they get married, then they have children, and then they have other household responsibilities that are not being shared with their spouses, and the burden falls on them, then burnout happens for them. And what happens is the first thing that they sacrifice is their career because they feel that no, the spouse has a better ability to continue in his career, so we just give it up. And therefore, you have very few women actually climbing up the corporate ladder. So as a result, when say 100 women have actually entered a company at the fresher level, you have only 2%, that's only 2 people have actually gone that continuous journey and reached the very top. Now at the top, say you have 100 women and 100 men. For that 100 women, maybe only 2 have reached to the top, but that 100 men, or at least 90 would have continued until their retirement age to the top. And so what happens is at that level, when you have 90 versus 2, definitely the bias, the unconscious bias happens. And you will devalue the role of women there. And that's where the glass ceiling happens because a lot of unconscious bias happens in boards. And if boards do not have diversity, if boards are only male dominated, and if the boards think that no, women cannot take on these challenges because maybe too much travel is required, too many strategic decisions are required, which she may not be able to handle, then they will not vote for her to become the CEO. They will vote for the men in case they have to start championing and start consciously promoting and helping your peers, your female peers, to be able to get. And the first thing that you as a boy can do is when you get married, start being an equal household chore doer. And if you are not married as of now, start helping your mother at home. Start helping your sister. Don't expect your sister to do all household chores. You don't do all the outside chores. Divide all of them equally. You become a role model in your own community, in your family, and then think when suppose you start your own company, you will ensure that no, you will not have that that glass ceiling there. So the change starts with us, and I think that's what I think the earlier speaker Ranjanji also said. Change starts with us. So let's start doing it. Whatever happened in the past has happened, but let us start doing it. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, ma'am, surely. And I will try my level best to do the needful solution. Okay.
Yeah, and please, and my one urge to all the boys, or one prayer to all the boys here, is when you choose your spouses, ensure that you also help them in their careers too.
Absolutely, ma'am. Due to the paucity of time, we could take one last question. I mean,
there's some 2 or 3 girls. Maybe we can just quickly I think there are 3 girls, so let them just quickly, and I'll answer all of them together. So just put your question, all of you, and then I'll answer all at one go.
All right, unmute yourself one by one, starting.
I think Mehak, Shrishti, and Rishita.
Yeah, sure.
Good evening, ma'am. It was so nice to hear to you. So my question is that people have now come up with one more technique to lower down the women confidence in corporate and work. That is now they put at the point of structural functional theory. that there is inequality, but that inequality helps the system to function. As if women are doing the home chores, and the men will go out and earn, and they together form the system which will work towards the that will work how like that will work to make the society better. How do we combat such critiques?
Okay, so the next, the other two also can just ask their questions and I'll answer everything because they all have a similar answer.
Hello, ma'am. Srishti here from IIM Batch. Just I wanted to inform you one thing before my question. Ma'am, we here at IIM Jammu are having a good percentage of girls at the IPM batch, wherein out of 58 students, we are about 50 to 51 girls here.
Excellent.
So, yes, ma'am. Also, ma'am, I wanted to, my question is, ma'am, you just said that reservation would help, or a kind of giving a quota would help the women, that there should be at least one woman. In many companies, the inputs of the women have not been valued because of this system. So, ma'am, what is your take on that?
I'll answer that too. And then the last girl, Rishita.
Good evening, ma'am. It was so inspiring hearing you. So I wanted to know what, as a woman in the industry, what was the barrier that you faced in the industry yourself, and what advice would you like to give the future female leaders who are going to enter the male-dominated industry?
Okay, so thank you, Shrishti, Rishita, and Mehak. Almost the answer to all your questions are quite similar because Mehak talked about this model which says that no, the man earns outside and the women takes. But who created that model? Just think of it. It must be from a male perspective, and therefore definitely they will try to prove their theory is correct. So we have to break that mindset. So that is number one. Then Shrishti said that your voice, how do you get heard? How do you think that your voice is not valued enough? Definitely, unless you are very aggressive and assertive, your voice will not be heard. And many a time, because you're the minor single lone voice in a forum, you will be devalued, you will not be heard, you will not be actively heard. But the thing is, that is the reason why I wanted a quota system where at least you get 2 or 3 women on those policy making formulating bodies or in boards, so that at least you have 2 or 3 more people who are reinforcing that value. And Rishita, I think you also said that what I have faced numerous cases of discrimination, but I've taken learnings from that to help me become stronger the next time. And one thing is, I have become very vocal nowadays. I mean, if I find any discrimination, I point it out. I say, like, see, today, as soon as I saw you people there, I mean, I didn't see the people on the Zoom screens, but in that classroom itself, when that camera panned over, when the earlier speaker was speaking, I only saw like 2 or 3 females sitting in that room. And that really felt bad when I'm talking about women empowerment and there are only 2 or 3. What women empowerment am I speaking about? So these are the things that when you people go out into the real world, and I think Srishti said that you have about 51 or number of girls, but that just have maybe a motto that all those 51 will continue until the end of their lives, that they will be in the career. Don't drop the moment you have some obstacle, because life will throw you some obstacles. Obstacles may be in the form of, say, a marriage or a childbirth or elderly care. Take those breaks. I'm not saying don't take it, but also think of ways of coming back. And today, with the flexibility, with all the disruptions happening in the workplace, you can definitely become economic participants to the nation. So that should be your ultimate goal. Am I a professional? Am I an entrepreneur? Am I a home-based entrepreneur? Am I teaching something to somebody in the community? Am I helping the community grow? These are the things that the nation requires. So try being that. So that is my last recommendation or urge to all the women especially. And for this, women alone cannot just do it. We need the support of the men, and we need the support of all those boys there in the room. So all of you will have to urge the people, the women around you, to also start becoming more active in the society. So on that note, I think time is already up. So I will take my leave there. I hope I've answered all your questions. But see, the underlying fact is inequality is present, and how do we overcome it? And we overcome it in a number of ways. The more people are hitting it, the more then that barrier starts going up and up, and finally it shatters. So all of you should be those change makers of tomorrow's India. So I'm rooting for all of you, and I wish IIM Jammu stands out, saying that we are a batch, we are like females are at high percentage, and they're all today in the career, and we're all going and rooting very strong.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable time. You have answered us brilliantly. We look forward to hosting you offline pretty soon at IIM Jammu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I will log off then. Thank you.
A very good evening, everyone. With that, we come to an end of Leadership Summit 3.0, Leadership Next for Atmanirbhar Bharat. In this summit, we got to listen to eminent leaders in diverse fields who shared their views on emerging opportunities in the realm of digitalization.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Welcome to the third Leadership Summit. Please start now.
Maestro.
Good evening, sir. Are we audible?
Yes, yes.
A very good evening, everyone. With that, we come to an end of Leadership Summit 3.0, Leadership Next for Atmanirbhar Bharat. In this summit, we got to listen to eminent leaders in diverse fields who shared their views on emerging opportunities in the realm of digitalization, disruptive innovation, gig economy, and the future of self-reliant domestic workforce.
Professor B.S. Sahai, Honorable Director of IIM Jammu, does not need any introduction. He is a known face globally in the academics and corporate world and has received many accolades for his contribution in the field. Yes, Dr. Milind Prahlad Kamble is a civil engineer, entrepreneur, policymaker, and founder chairman of the Dalit Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, DICCI. Chairman, Board of Governor, IIM Jammu, Chairman and Managing Director, MPK Group of Companies. DICCI is the first Indian industry chamber working to promote business leadership in the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities of India. It promotes the concept of fight caste with capital with the motto, be job givers, not job seekers. Dr. Milind Kamble sir is also the recipient of Padma Shri in 2013 and many more awards for his path-breaking work in social engineering. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out the time to address the students of IIM Jammu. The virtual stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman sir, Director sir, faculty colleagues who have joined us here or online, the staff officers, staff members, and dear students and the participants who have joined us out of off campus also, the people who registered for this summit. Good evening, everyone. We had a wonderful 2 days of leadership summit. This is the third leadership summit. I'm quickly and briefly talking about it. Since Chairman Sir has also joined us, so I thought that this is a right opportunity for me to just brief about this summit. We had in total close to 18 speakers, 18 wonderful speakers who joined us over these 2 days. We had packed sessions, and I'm sure that all our students had a wonderful time. They had wonderful learning. As I have been saying all these 2 days that IIM Jammu believes in, has certain core values which we strongly believe in and on which we have been working on. One of them is entrepreneurship, inclusiveness, innovations. And this is, in fact, when we talk about this leadership summit, we try to bring in those core values here. But when I talk about inclusiveness, we also talk about gender diversity. We had 6 wonderful female speakers also who joined us, and I'm sure that all our students had a wonderful, wonderful time. Although, since I've been talking since past 2 days, I've been here with all of you. I'm sure that you all are eagerly waiting for Chairman Sir and Director Sir to share some words of wisdom with you. I would request Director Sir to first share his words of wisdom with our students and participants.
Okay. Respected Dr. Milind Kamble, founder president of Dickey. My dear faculty colleagues, students, it was a great moment for all of us that for last 2 days, we had an opportunity to listen to some of the brilliant mind of the country. And he landed Pune just 1 hour back. And I requested him that is it possible for you? And he said that yes, he would definitely like to interact with the students and faculty members of IIM Jammu. In fact, and that's why he was given this Padma Award. But what is more important is that the social transformation and economic transformation is trying to bring to the society, setting up a parallel, like say this association, Dickey, was not a joke. And today, more than 12,000 members are associated with Dickey. I had the privilege to interact with many of them. And is one person, he says that why to work for others? We can be torchbearer for others. And that's why his mantra is that whether you want to be a job seeker or whether you want to be a job creator. And here is a forum, here is an opportunity for all of you. I must tell you that I had the privilege to work with so many chairmen. But every time I interact, I've said in so many times in public that I feel that I'm very lucky to have Dr. Milind Kamble as our chairman. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kamble. Sir, your support, your guidance is very much valuable to all of us. And the best part is that you are always there whenever we need you. So thank you very much for this. In fact, this 2 day was very, very informative, very educative to all great minds sitting here in the class or online in the class. This year, the Leadership Summit the theme was that what type of leadership is required to make India self-reliant, to make Bharat Atmanirbhar. We are seeing the current crisis, what is happening globally. That the war between Russia and Ukraine, and the way NATO is trying to play their role. But above all, the most important thing that the role of Indian leadership, our Honorable Prime Minister. So many students are studying in Ukraine. In this hour of crisis, everybody, whole world is looking toward vibrant. If you are strong, the whole world salutes you. If you are weak, everybody mock of you. So that's really important for all of us to understand that as a country, as an institution, we have to be really very strong. If I talk of IIM Jammu, the strength comes from faculty members and students. You are the backbone of this IIM Jammu. And we have to make sure that, okay, what type of leadership we should be developing so that we are able to contribute in the growth and development of the nation to make it Atmanirbhar. Now, when we talk of Atmanirbhar, yesterday also we were talking of that so many unicorns have come up. In 2021 alone, there were 44. This year, again, more than 10 or 12 unicorns are there. And their all average age is they are young. Average age is 30. And I think that you guys have the potential. What is required is that you have the capability, you have the competence. Just muster the courage. When you do something unusual, there are people, there are bound to be obstruction because there are societal pressure, there are family pressure, there are pressure from the peer group. When you find that your friends are getting jobs, whereas you are thinking to be an entrepreneur. But let me tell you, this initial struggle will bear a big fruit to all of you. And here is our chairman who has always said this thing that we must encourage our students from all walks of life, whatever their background may be, they must venture to become an entrepreneur. During our time, there were no such facility, schemes, provisions from the government. But today, there is no dearth of money. What is required is an idea. If you have an idea, probably you can do wonders. There will be there are angel partners, there are bankers, there are financial institutions that are going to support you. So it's really important. And this is a high time for all of you. And that is the reason that we decided to set up Center for Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Skill Development, both in Srinagar and in Jammu. Now, when we talk of this entrepreneurship center or skill development, because we owe to the society, wherever we are located, we must serve the mankind, we must serve our nation. And I was telling you that the IIM Jammu scheme that you start your venture, even if the moment you join, even the newcomer who is coming, this place should be known for entrepreneurial development. And that's why IIM Jammu is the only place where we have kept entrepreneurship as a core subject. It is everywhere as an elective, but here we said that it must be a core subject so that you know the basics of entrepreneurship, what is required, what type of leadership is required, and it's really important. You start your venture, an institute is going to support you. And by the way, if you suppose you fail in your endeavor, then after 2 years, you can come back and you can ask for the placement. And the placement committee will feel more than happy to provide you that support. But why to look for that? I'm quite confident if there is a determination. If there is determination, nobody can beat you. You are bound to succeed. And that determination should be there. When in just 3 years' time, IIM can grow like this, IIM Jammu can grow like this, under the guidance of our chairman and with the support of all faculty members and students. Why you can't succeed when the whole institute is behind you? So my dear friends, the right time for all of you take a plunge. And because many times I think that many of you have taken loans, I know that, and there are commitment to refund those loans. We are, in fact, had a discussion in the ministry also regarding this. And we said this thing that can we explore with the bankers that, okay, this installment payment can be deferred for 2 years. So we can evolve that thing, we can discuss about that thing. But what is important is that institute must get convinced that yes, all of you are coming forward, and whatever help is required, whatever support is required, whatever guidance is required, it will be there. So just think of, because see, just at the age of suppose 28, 30, you becomes a billionaire, becomes a millionaire. You can give employment to so many families, so many people. When you give employment to 10 people, mind it that you're running 10 families. It's not only that 10 people. And again, I repeat the same thing that, say, that, just don't think that, okay, you can't do it. You have the potential. You have the capability. Just focus. So when you're coming, you can register your company, you can start your incubating your company. And by the time you're passing out, your company is ready, your product is ready, your services are ready. Probably your company is already running. So it's a high time, and that's why whatever leadership is required, we are trying to make that thing in force. And both these gentlemen, Dr. Burhan and Dr. Pratik Jain, they are dedicated for this purpose. So I'm really thankful to Honorable Chairman. Very warm greetings to Dr. Burhan and Pratik Jain for organizing this third leadership summit. Thank you. So it's a wonderful thing to now I will request Honorable Chairman to share his wisdom with all of us. So, sir, the floor is yours. Jain.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Thank you, Dr. B.S. Sahai. Just I'm landed from Goa. I was in a Konkan members, staff members, participants, and my dear students. Good evening to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure to join you in the valedictory session of third leadership summit of IIM Jammu. The event resonates positivity and urge us to understand the need for leadership in the modern era. Just Professor Sahai mentioned the crisis is going on between Russia and Ukraine. And dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. The leadership summit themes in the past and this year have been very relevant to the current times. And the speakers that have joined us in the past and this year's summit have been phenomenal. I'm sure you all have enjoyed listening to them and learning from their experiences. Current times have been exceptional in many ways. The competition has been overwhelmingly high, and the COVID has added to the challenges of survival of fittest. We adopted new methods and platforms to survive and at times challenged our own slaves. Leadership plays an essential role under these circumstances, and taking right decision at right time is expected from you to move ahead and beat the odds. India over the years has developed in the right direction and taken a global leadership role, which now yesterday, the 2 days back, Honorable our Prime Minister spoke to Mr. Putin and asked, war is a no solution. So this role, leadership role, and the whole world is watching to India. Biden also requested India to talk to more, to end this war to Indian leadership. So this is the position which we have now in the world. Our position has become stronger, and the pressure to sustain the position and grow further in higher. We all must be ready to accept that challenges, the challenges that has come with opportunities for us to deliver and grow. Atmanirbhar Bharat, you all know Atmanirbhar Bharat is a challenge has given by our Prime Minister of India. When pandemic started, it was declared Atmanirbhar Bharat package and has given challenge to our industry, MSMEs, and our scientists. And our scientists prove they have developed own our vaccine and so many things which we have developed. So to become an Atmanirbhar Bharat is the new Bharat that will lead the world. I wish and pray that all of you become the part of that journey as contributors and work hard to achieve the dream of prosperous, successful, and Atmanirbhar Bharat for this and the future generation. I congratulate Professor B.S. Sahai, Director IIM Jammu, and his team for making Leadership Summit a regular and meaningful event every year. And I hope that you coming years also this event turns out to be an important platform that generates essential ideas that promote leadership and economic growth for the country. I conclude my address with my blessings and good wishes to all of you. Although the COVID has sustainably subsided, but we must not lower the guard. Be careful and take care of your health. Jai Hind.
Sir, would you like to take few questions from students?
Yeah.
It was not planned, but I'm just, this idea came to me that we have some time. So students.
Okay.
If you have any question, you can ask.
So if anyone has any question to ask, this is an opportunity for you, which Director Sir has opened. Otherwise, we didn't plan this, but this is a right opportunity.
There was no plan. Why don't you stand and show the camera?
Yeah.
So that
Good evening.
You here with us. So could you tell us what women can do to become Atmanirbhar in the plan that is given by the Narendra Modi?
Yeah, if we go through the Atmanirbhar Bharat package, which is announced by Honorable Prime Minister, and later on by stage wise, which is elaborated by our Finance Minister in six stages. In that Atmanirbhar package, there are a lot of announcements for the startups and for the women also. There is a great scope for a woman entrepreneurship in agri infra fund they have created. In our country, there is a lot of agri startups and agri intervention is required. So exactly in Atmanirbhar Bharat, there is an agri infra fund Government of India announced, and it is a streamline. Then also micro food entrepreneurs want to create by government. So there are a lot of opportunities for micro food entrepreneurs and for the startups. All they can participate. One more thing, which is Ayurveda, has in the last 2 years there is a huge in demand So there is a lot of opportunities for the startups, tribal youth, for the Ayurvedic plantation, and so many other things government of India have discovered in the Atmanirbhar Bharat package. And also Professor Sahai mentioned just the tally of unicorns is a 40. All these 40 unicorns are from the fintech sector, or the more agri-tech are there, logistic, food tech, and so many others. So, and there are so many women entrepreneurs also. So there is a complete ecosystem in India have created by the government to support startups, women entrepreneurship. I can say one line: this is the best time in India to go.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So we have someone towards the backside who wants to ask the question. If you can please roll the camera also. Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for such an enlightening
Yeah.
session. So my question is, as we are going through fourth revolution of the AI revolution, and be it private sector, be it public sector. So every one of us are talking about digital revolution and Atmanirbhar Bharat, as our director sir also mentioned. So my question is, how can we thrive during this ongoing disruption, and at the same time, how can we future-proof our organization and our people, as every prominent leaders are talking about power of we and not me. So how can we do that, sir?
Okay, great. As I mentioned, this is the best time for a Indian youth to go for a startup, because there is a complete ecosystem is created. Now, this year's budget announcement are very amazing. There is a great potential to promote digital intervention. If you go through the budget speech, which is on record and which is available, there are so many things: battery swiping policy, electric vehicle and digital intervention, PM e-Vidya, and so many things they have mentioned. So there is a huge scope for a digital intervention in India, population like 135 crore. So required disruptive ideas, and exactly these 40 unicorns, they have used thousands of investors, they are coming forward. I am connected with one venture catalyst from Mumbai. uh, they have started in 2016 a venture capital, and as of now they have created 9 unicorns. This is a great and amazing. India has a lot of potential for the startups, and we have a huge market. So that's why use this opportunity, use the government policy support, the startup India support, and become an entrepreneur. I always say be job givers, not job seeker. Because, and also while I'm working with our core should be to become a job givers, to create entrepreneurs. Is our focus is also there. So if you want to start a startup, there is a huge scope and potential.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your ground zero knowledge with us. Thank you so much, sir.
First, to another person who is going to ask the question, I'm also thankful to Director Sir. No, we all have been seeing that Director Sir actually has pain in his leg also. And despite that, he could take out the time and make sure that he doesn't remain online. He actually came here. And we are very thankful to you, sir, for that. Question.
Yes, good evening, Milind sir. Your words were most inspiring and your journey is most remarkable, sir. I just wanted to pose a question to you, which is very pertinent in this summit. We have faced this many times that, like you rightfully mentioned, sir, growing India is getting a lot of opportunities in edtech, fintech, and even health tech is quite prominent nowadays. But we see that there is a huge divide. There is a digital divide and a huge skill gap when it comes to digital skills in a country like India also. Of course, it's improving, but it is there. So, sir, what would be your best words of advice or something you'd like to say about how companies can focus on acquiring good talent and good skilled workforce for the future for global competitiveness? Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Very good question on digital divide. Dear friends, I want to share my experience or rather our work in a pandemic. My team rigorously studied regarding the MSME and the digital divide in the country as far as the education is concerned. We have come up with a report and submitted to the PMO, Ministry of Education and Ministry of MSME regarding digital divide. Those students who cannot afford the education, cannot afford the gadgets, their parents cannot afford the recharge. So in a family there are 2-3 boys are there and there is only one smartphone. At a time only one student can learn. So this thing is there from the tribal areas, far-flung areas. There is a huge digital divide created, but and that we have brought notice to the government, and the government have come up with the PM E-Vidya to bridge the digital divide, which announcement in a budget. Those students are away from the education. Those are have decided to create from 1st to 8th, 9th standard, and so many other announcement in the budget regarding to bridge the digital divide. What was your another question?
Yes, sir. So even companies in India, they need to look at how to hire equipped and skilled workforce, whereas digital trends are quite new. So how can they go about that, sir?
Yeah. See, in government of India, in all state governments, they are trying for skill development of a youth. In government of India, there is a National Skill Development Council, which is dedicatedly working for the upskilling, reskilling, and all these so many and skilling to make the job ready youth and students. So the government, so many departments in the government, in the fisheries, they are doing going on, and also those companies hire the youth for their companies. They also themselves they run the so many skilling programs also there. So don't worry. There is a system is developed by companies also and the government of India also. So make use of it and become a future ready.
Thank you, sir. Your words are reassuring.
Thank you very much, sir. I must share this with our participants and students that Chairman sir is actually the reporter of knowledge. We in fact had an opportunity to spend some time with him in Ahmedabad recently. And what we could observe is that he is someone who has all the knowledge about entrepreneurship and the things related to entrepreneurship. Not just that, in fact, he has been over the years working for the people marginalized him and for him to lead us in the process of moving to the next level. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us and for being here with us and for your blessings. I must also share with Chairman sir here that we did actually this program in a blended mode. We have students here, but at the same time, we also have students from IPM particularly who have not joined the campus yet. They have joined us through the online mode, and also there are students this is how we could connect to a lot of people. This time also, we had a lot of media coverage also, and I'm thankful to the media community for that. I'll request now Professor, in fact, that's what, in fact, I'm saying that we have been running this online as well as offline. We have Professor Pankaj who has joined us online, and I request him, who is the chairperson of Executive Education at IIM Jammu, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Professor Burhan. Good evening, Milind sir, Director sir, and all my colleagues and dear students. It is my singular privilege to have been invited to deliver this vote of thanks at the valedictory of the Leadership Summit 3.0. To begin with, when our chairman sir was speaking, I was suddenly reminded that right now we are organizing this summit in a backdrop of war. About one-upmanship, our chairman sir has been talking about entrepreneurship. While the world is in the throes of some destruction, we are here talking about creation of jobs. So thank you, Chairman sir, for your wonderful words of wisdom. And we almost took you from the Pune airport and brought you straight to Jammu. Thank you for being so kind and having a place for IIM Jammu always in your heart and finding time for us. I was thinking that whenever there is an opportunity to ask Chairman sir related to questions, students generally throng with questions, and it's like a duck taking to water. But the kind of range that I saw of the questions and the way Chairman sir has so easily handled, starting from HR, then women entrepreneurship. I think Professor Burhan was very right when he said that sir is a true repertory of knowledge. Sir, thank you for being a wonderful leader, and your presence today epitomizes the spirit of this summit, where leadership and entrepreneurship are combined. Thank you so much, sir. I would like to what commitment is all about. I think everyone can see last 2 days and before that also how sir has been in pain, but still he always believes that the show must go on. And by setting an example for leadership, I think he has given a personal message to all of us that how commitment is a true hallmark of a leader. Thank you, sir, for your visionary words today, how the students need to become creators of job. And as I have mentioned in the previous programs, that actually this is very statement like, message of yours when you connect the usual national objective like Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you for your leadership, sir. Thanks a lot. I would also take this opportunity to thank our strategic partner, Jeevitam, for partnering with us and being on this platform. I would thank the members of the media who have been very cooperative in spreading this message of Leadership Summit 3.0 to India and outside. I do not know how to thank the two people who are the pillars of this Leadership Summit 3.0, my colleagues, Dr. Mukbil Burhan and Dr. Prateek Jain. The success of this show is an ample testimony to the immense planning, strategic thinking, and hard work both of you had put up. So we really thank you for bringing in such a wonderful array of speakers and delighting and enlightening all of us through their wise words. Thank you, Professor Burhan and Dr. Prateek. I would like to thank our IT and administration team at IIM Jammu who have ensured that this program in the hybrid mode is conducted flawlessly for the 2 days. Thanks a lot, all the members of the IT and administration team. Now I would like to thank all my student volunteers who have done an excellent job. I think a round of applause for them in managing the event in all senses. They have shown their potential for becoming leaders and great managers. Thank you. I was really excited to see their level of curiosity in every session. We had to stop the questions and answer. They were so curious. I think that credit goes to our all the participants for conducting themselves as one of the best audiences around. Thanks a lot, participants. So I think with these words, I would end my word of thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Before we conclude with national anthem that we every time do, I in fact have to thank my students team. In fact, no, we always take a credit. I can always be someone at the front and say the credit goes to me, or somebody says that credit goes to me, but my intervention was the least one. And everyone has seen that it was actually the student driven event. I have a wonderful team here which have put a lot of efforts in this show, and it has been almost a month that they have been running after the speakers, requesting them, somebody canceling the event even at the last moment, and all credit goes to my students team, and I would request everyone to have a big applaud for them. And also the other student teams who have supported us throughout this program, particularly these boys who have been standing there, covering the event. And that's what I like about it. See, every time otherwise we bring people from outside and cover the event. But this time I said that let us have our own event. That is Atmanirbhar, right? So let us have our own teams involved in this. And these boys have been here every time without even taking a rest and covering this event. We have our CCC team which has been there. We have our students who come for Saraswati Vandana to national anthem. We have our IT team, particularly our own IT team, not the students team. Sunil and others are here, who have been here every time. It's been Saturday, Sunday, and I understand that bringing them here and asking them to come and stay here without even blinking the eye, they have been here. Thank you everyone for being here for us.
जनगण मन
नायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 जय
Okay, acha.
Recording stopped.